Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Objective. And today we're going to be talking about a topic that's really breaking the internet right now. Congresswoman Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. It's these long names, am I right? Announced, or she didn't announce anything. Well, she did announce via her wardrobe, her clothing at the recent Met Gala. Tax the rich that's what her dress said. So of course, it was designed professionally, and she wore it at this very luxurious event, the Met Gala. Maybe we'll find out what the Met Gala exactly is. And of course, this is taking the internet by storm, which is to say it's taking society by storm. A lot of people probably think it's cool and edgy, and finally, somebody saying it and showing those fat cats that change is about to come. And obviously, as you would expect, there's also people saying, first of all, she's a hypocrite because she's at this very, very, very expensive event and her dress is very expensive, and she is or will be very rich very soon because, she's a public figure who's very popular. But also taxing the rich is not really how freedom works, and it's not how capitalism prospers. It's not good for anybody to, quote, tax the rich. So that's obviously going to be people's response. How much of their response is pointing the finger and calling her a hypocrite versus making sensible arguments? Maybe that's something to explore as well. Now, here to help me explore is a guy who has explored his way from out and out old school communism all the way to laissez-faire capitalist, objectivist student of liberty and selfishness. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nikos.
Thank you very much, Rucka. So, as usually, we're not going to do the predictable thing. The predictable thing is to say, haha, look, AOC is hanging out with the rich and she's a hypocrite. So, first of all, I have to say that this was a great PR thing by AOC. I don't know who thought about it, but whoever did so, hats off. I might find it ideologically cringy, but it's not easy that everyone is talking about you for the last 12 hours. So first of all, it was a very clever move. The second thing is that on the one hand, you see the shallowness of the left, because the argument to tax the rich, actually, it's not radical at all. You mentioned I used to be a communist. In my communist days, we would say these people are the reformists. These people are the ones that completely lack political imagination, and all they can think is tax the rich. This is social democracy. This is not the real left. So relax, people. I see today a lot of things like they have Photoshop the sickle and hammer on her dress. No, that's boring Keynesianism for you. That's all that it is. But we can talk about this a bit more. What I found more interesting is the shallowness of the reply by the conservatives. All they had to come up with is, you're a hypocrite. Now, what does this mean? She's supposedly a hypocrite because this is an event that if you want to enter, the ticket is something like $30,000. You hang out with people from what used to be called the jet set, celebrities, other rich people. The dress itself is obviously you don't go and buy it from Zara, or I don't know what's the alternative in the US. It's created by an haute couture, or however it's called. Actually, the person who created it, the woman, is also an activist. So there is not much hypocrisy in it, because if you haven't noticed, the rich agree that, yes, of course, all this is capitalism is not fair and we have to be taxed. Actually, the woman who created the dress, and created is not the right term, but I'm missing, how do you call it when you make a dress? But let's say created. So that woman is part of an activist campaign where big businesses that make a good profit need to give some of that profit to people of color who run businesses or something like that. So if the best that the conservatives have to come up with is, this is a hypocrisy, you've completely missed the point. That was exactly AOC's point. Look, I am in the mouth of the wolf, as we say in Greek. I am in the middle of the rich people, and I'm showing them, I can show the middle finger, I'm showing them the finger. So that was her whole point. But the best that conservatives could come up with is, that's hypocrisy, which is, it shows like how shallow and boring politics are today. And I know we sound like the cool kids who find everything boring and only we can do a good analysis, but we can elaborate a bit. Mm-hmm. But that's my first thought.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree. What she did, in its own context, is clever because, yeah, she's in the belly of the beast. That's another metaphor, and she used the opportunity to kind of give the middle finger. I was just trying to think, what's another example of someone doing something ironic like that? When the band Nirvana first got popular, their whole thing is, they're from Portland or Seattle, that whole kind of scene, their whole thing was that we're not selling out, we're not going to be famous, we don't want to succeed. Of course, it became the #1 genre in the world, and Nirvana became the biggest band in the world, and they were put on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine, and the singer wore a shirt that said corporate magazines still suck. Okay, so what? You think Rolling Stone is offended by that? You think anyone is offended? You're disturbing our sanctimonious environment? Everyone is just happy to they're happy to be selling magazines. I'm reminded of the late great comedian Bill Hicks. You got to check this guy out. This guy, legendary. He had a very funny routine where he said something like, "If you work in advertising, do me a favor, kill yourself." And the audience laughs a bit, and then he goes on and says, "Now people in the audience who work in advertising are thinking, oh, okay, he's going for the anti-advertiser dollar. Okay, interesting. No, I'm serious. Listen to me. I hate you. Oh, okay, he's going for this dollar. He's going no matter what you say, they're like, oh, that's the market. That's your brand." So in the world of branding and marketing, you could be a hypocrite, but you're still if it's sending the message you're trying to send, it does it. And that's exactly what AOC did. If we agreed with her message, suppose she was invited to more of a anti-capitalist event or something. She was invited to some kind of event and she wore a pro-capitalist dress that was maybe a little bit inappropriate in that environment. We would say, haha, we pwned them. Anyway, if like you said, if people's primary argument is you're a hypocrite, what are they really saying? I think oftentimes you see this in the culture in general. This is not just a conservative thing. People they respond to moral statements by saying, well, you're a hypocrite. And they do that everywhere, including the way they try to debunk Ayn Rand. They say, well, Ayn Rand, received Social Security or whatever it is. She drove on roads. I mean, people even unironically say Ayn Rand was educated for free in the Soviet Union. So for her to then be anti-communist is an act of hypocrisy. So but I think they're both trying to be perpetual skeptics, but on ethical grounds, they're trying to say, don't be so moralistic. They're saying, don't be so sure of your moral position because you, like everyone else, is a hypocrite. So just don't take ethics too seriously.
Also, when you say to someone you're a hypocrite, what you assume is that, well, there is a principle there, which is probably okay, but you don't go for this principle. For example, would never say to an SS officer, oh, you're a hypocrite, you didn't kill as many people as you could today. So when you say to someone you're a hypocrite, you're almost giving them the moral sanction that says that, well, your ideas are onto something, but you don't follow them. So yeah, that's why, and you saw even some heavyweights of the conservative movement going for that argument. And I thought it's almost like a performance. So it is a performance from the part of AOC. And also I want to say something about this. I wrote a book called The Rise of Lifestyle Activism. And this is exactly what lifestyle activism is. Activism, not in terms of I have a plan to change the system, but here's a gesture, a moral gesture of how concerned I am or how aware I am. And writing this book mostly still from, let's say, a revolutionary, from the left point of view, the idea was this is not going to bring any change. So there is this superficiality from the left, but also there's superficiality from the right. Do you want also to get into the argument, though, because since we're here, why not do it anyway, on whether this is a brave thing? So many people say this was an iconic moment, this is a brave moment. And I think a brave moment would be going in a gala with rich people and tell them, look, you all deserve every last of your pennies. And the only thing that you should be criticized is that you don't know it. this would be really brave because everyone's jaw would drop. Going to rich people and saying you need to pay more, everyone is saying this. The rich people themselves have been saying this, and this is not something new. Remember again in Atlas Shrugged, that brilliant scene where Reardon, after his speech, he has all these rich people who told him, well, you got a bit too far. Why did you do this? And then he gives this answer that I quote so often, which says, gentlemen, I'm afraid I'll have to say, I'm sorry that I'll have to save your goddamn neck together with mine, or something like that. So it's actually one of the most, yeah.
What was your example of what she could have said to the gala that would have been offensive?
Not offensive, but something unusual. Is telling the rich, look, you deserve your rich. You are the people on your shoulders. So basically going with an Atlas Shrugged dress.
Right. That would have been bold and actually unusual. You know, I mean, as somebody who's a little bit on the provocative side, I've often found that whenever I think I'm going to offend people, they find it funny. I mean, not always. Obviously, many people are offended, but yeah, like an event like a gala, like people are kind of complacent, I think. Like they're just kind of like hungry for something unusual. Because, you know, it's so kind of mundane, as glamorous as it is. What are you really doing? You're wearing your nicest clothes that you don't want to ruin, and you're eating as carefully as you can and trying to make conversation. So if somebody does something bold, it's like people they like that. They find it funny. And like I said, like, yeah, you wear a shirt that says corporate magazines still suck on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. Rolling Stone are happy because they've got a great cover now. The readers are happy. Everybody's happy. I mean, these types of things don't actually offend people. I really like your point also about how it's ceding the moral high ground to her when they say you're a hypocrite. Like, yes, we agree, tax the rich, but you're rich. So, and you know, you're not taxing them enough or something like that. Like, why are you even letting them be rich, you know, at all? They wouldn't make that argument to someone if what they're advocating for was truly horrendous. Like if somebody says, you know, beat your wife, if that was their message, nobody would say, oh, well, you're a hypocrite because you're not beating your wife right now. You know, I saw your wife yesterday and you were not laying hand on her. Obviously, they are ceding her the moral high ground when they say that. Yeah, to your point, I think that you're transitioning us into, and also thank you, Sammy's board again for the super chat. AOC is a woman of her time. She is a millennial or something. I think might be younger than me or something. She's in her 20s. She is your typical BuzzFeed wannabe feminist, wannabe socialist, thinks she's edgy, but doesn't even realize like what edginess is. You know, like we grew up at a time when, yes, edginess was corporatized and marketed and sold nightly in nice packages, but there was still a segment of society that was opposed to it, you know, like punk rock and offensive rap and all this stuff. It had a certain significant segment of society that was opposed to it. So like conservative Christians at the time were trying to shut down offensive music. And in some cases, it went up to the Supreme Court, like, should this be allowed or not? And boycotts that were taking place. All this stuff was going on. We remember what it was like to actually be offensive, but those days are long over. And this younger generation, these kids today, they don't even know what it means to be edgy. So yeah, AOC and her contemporaries, all they know how to do is go with the program. All they know how to do is do exactly what they're educated to do. Even when they try to be offensive, they're still going with the program. And they don't even realize like what life even can offer. Like they don't even realize like what they're kind of passing up by behaving this way. AOC is never going to have a good man in her life. And this goes for all of these loudmouth bitches, excuse me, who are behaving the way that she does. They're never actually going to settle down with anybody good. They might succeed career-wise. They might have a lot of money in the bank, but nobody I don't think that they desire is ever going to desire them back because of this behavior. But this is the way they've been encouraged to present themselves to the world. And it's exactly what they're doing. And they don't even realize that there's a better way. So there's my little
AOC
tangent.
would tell you that. So first of all, there were other people also with women empowered messages, and they would tell you that, wait a minute, this is the old anti-feminist myth that says that a woman should sit on the corner and not talk. So, but I want to focus on something what you said on this not being edgy. It reminded me a sketch that that took place in a university some years ago. It was supposed to be a radical kind of countercultural, and all it did was making fun of Trump. And I thought there's nothing less radical or edgy than making fun of Trump. So I don't want to put it on whether they're gonna find. I mean, as far as I know, AOC is happily in a relationship for ages. Good for her. So I don't think that this will have necessarily an effect on their personal happiness. And I hope that everyone is personally happy. But here's another thing. I found also very interesting someone who tried to counterfact her arguments. And what were the replies on Twitter? So a guy said, wish I were there to wear my, and he gives a good statistic, the top 1% of American earners pay more in income tax, 40%, than the other 90% combined. So someone is basically saying, look, the rich are already taxed enough. Now, if you see the comments behind it, it's even the friendly comments either say, yeah, but they have still a lot of money on the side. Then others are saying something like, yeah, but they made more money during the crisis. So the whole discussion is about, is the fact that these people have a lot of money good for society? If it is good for society, let's allow them to have a lot of money. So a lot of people in the comments drop the term motive and incentives. So even on the side of the people who disagree with OAC, the whole argument is, shall we let them have that money? And there are people who say yes, because it's good. So utilitarian argument, yes, or ethical, moral argument, no. What is completely missing from this discussion is why are you even talking about that? Why are you playing in OAC's argument, basically, that says that we need to do X? So listen what AOC wrote today on Twitter. After a year where frontline workers were thrown into harm's way, many without hazard pay or adequate healthcare, while billionaires hoarded another 4 trillion with capital, members of both parties have tried to halt taxing the wealthiest in our society. It's unacceptable. We must tax the rich. So the sentiment of the tweet is in some ways the same as the sentiment of the people who oppose the tweet and the dress, which says there's a we, and that we need to decide how wealth is distributed, because wealth comes from the sky, and these people have this big basket and have collected it. So I know that it's boring to people who know us when we say all the time, we need to start from the moral argument. But here's why we need to do it. Because if we don't do that, we end up with this boring, yeah, but is their tax going to be, should it be 48% or 46%? And by doing this, you're basically saying to AOC, look, you're right, but you're taking it a bit too far.
Yeah, and the moral argument is not primarily how should we or how should I treat the rich. I mean, morality is not primarily about how you treat others. Ethics, answers like, what should I do? I should live my life for me. I should maximize the life that I can live. And with that in mind, if I do become rich, that wealth belongs to me to spend or to save and do what I want with it. So we need more selfishness in the culture. We need people wanting more. We need people that are excited to make their own billion, whether it's in money or in, kind of spiritual billions, doing what they love doing and attaining the values that they want. And that's what I see missing from the culture. Increasingly, I'm seeing people trading their own happiness and just completely throwing their future in the trash for the sake of this ugly nihilistic ideology that we've seen increasingly promoted by, the BuzzFeeds of the world. And that's very mainstream. It's not edgy or rebellious at all. It's exactly the program that the young are being inculcated with. I mean, as far as like AOC having a boyfriend or whatever, I mean, we're not homophobic on this network. If he's got a certain weird vibe to him. These are not masculine men he's not masculine. She's very not feminine. I'm seeing increasingly masculinity and femininity falling by the wayside with the way that this mainstream culture is developing. I know that's not what we're here to discuss today, but I thought this was relevant to include in the topic, and we could throw some red meat to the audience that loves when we punch left. But you don't have to comment on that if you don't necessarily see it the same way.
I don't see the. First, I'm a bit surprised because I don't think you believe that. Anyway, from our previous discussion, I thought that this was a topic that we wouldn't disagree, but I disagree on this particular thing. I think she's feminine, and I don't think that's the problem. I mean, think about it. If someone is loud and ideological, I would even say she can create an admiration. So my problem is not this. My problem is if AOC was an objectivist, I would be like, okay, how can I do? Why not?
Because she's bossy.
To whom?
To everybody. She's unlikable. She's always like, I'm in charge of this shit. No, I don't. I'm sorry for my language. I don't like, I don't think, I think if you were looking at AOC and you were looking at a girl who with the same philosophy, who's much more poised and presents herself like a lady, I think I know you would go with the latter. So no, I don't even with that, a philosophy that you agree with. I think there is such a thing as femininity and masculinity. By the way, a man also doesn't need to be, loud and outrageous, other than a certain context where, that's appropriate. So that's what I see missing from the culture. And I definitely see the sort of BuzzFeed feminist archetype as sort of leading the charge in like just dispensing completely with feminine energy and turning these women masculine, making them just, masculine, but it's not even masculine. Like it's just non-feminine. I don't know if that makes sense.
I get what you're saying, but I don't see how it applies to AOC. But anyway, that's not our goal.
Maybe she's your type. Look, I'm not saying she can't be your type. But
also it's of the responsibility of you as the partner to make sure that there is this balance and there is this, let's say, that there is this space where this feminine energy can arise.
Okay. Robert with $2 says AOC 1, the snark and meme crowd 0. Tom with $5 Canadian says, how do you explain the young of the 60s fighting the political and powerful elite, yet the young today do what the politicians tell them? I mean, the hippies of the 60s are the establishment today, basically. And, they're educating people in schools. But by the way, the rebellion, but here's the red pill for you. Here's what Ayn Rand, I think, points out in the 60s. The rebels of the 60s were doing exactly what they were told to do. They were educated to overthrow the system, so to speak. Maybe not told explicitly that, but philosophically, the premises that they were fed led them to behave the way they did. So anytime you see rebellion around a university or by the young against the old, check your premises. There's a very good chance the old actually taught them the philosophy that they're acting on. Robert with $5 says, who's actually answering the message of the dress? Besides ARI and ARC UK. Basically, other than objectivists, who's actually responding to this message in any effective way? Look, you look at the response to the left, you look at, my good friend Sargon. You tell him, okay, like capitalism and individualism is the answer to what the left is doing. And he'll say, okay. And then I'll say, okay, so we need to do away with the NHS. Oh, no, we can't do that. The NHS, we live in a society. So forget it. Like we're not dealing with individualists out there in response to the left. That's why it's not about, fighting the left so much as it is about presenting something positive. Robert with $2 says they expect to have their cake and tax it too. Taylor with $5 American says the no billionaire undercurrent is gaining strength. They're not hoarding gold coins in a Scrooge McDuck vault. It's either loaned out or invested. That's very true. I think Rand once pointed out, I know that's not the main argument we should be making, but I think Rand once pointed out in passing, like if you took all of the wealth of all the rich in America and distribute it to everyone, they would each get like a few dollars. But yeah, that's not the main point. If they do want to keep it in a vault, of course they have that right. But incidentally, that's not what they're doing with it. We benefit greatly from them producing that wealth and then investing it the way they do. And that's not even what entitles them to it. It's happy. It's a happy effect of them having the right to their own wealth that we get to benefit from that fact. Phil with 10 pounds says, well done with the long name, Rucka. By the way, Nikos, at least you made the leap to rationality that Christopher Hitchens hypocritically never could. Is Christopher Hitchens a hypocrite, or is he just a little bit intellectually complacent?
First of all, the leap that he made was in some ways more difficult because he was already famous. When I made the leap, I only shocked the 100 people around me. So I don't know a lot about his intellectual journey. My understanding is that he became something like a neocon, but also very strict in his in his attack against religion. So, to be honest, I'm not one of the big fans of. I admire the writing style and the oratory style of his brother. So I'm one of the very few people who know more about the other Hitchens rather than about the late Hitchen. And now I'm confused on who is who. But Peter is the deceased one, and Christopher. Anyway, sorry, I'm drawing a blank here.
Mm-hmm. I want to say this about, and Christopher is dead. Yeah. So in the regular chat, not the super chat, but the place where the lowlifes, I'm kidding, where the nice people go to post their free comments. But Christopher says there's nothing wrong with an assertive woman. He writes Rand in parentheses. Yeah, well, Ayn Rand, obviously.
That's what I thought as well.
Well, no, but that's not what I'm saying. So first of all, Ayn Rand was very polite, and her getting worked up at a Q&A is like maybe the extremity of her behaving that way, whereas being bossy and disrespectful and arrogant is just the norm with today's independent women that we see in the culture, with people like AOC. So for Ayn Rand was not she was very polite. You see her going on Phil Donahue, the audience behaved like a bunch of rude hippies, and Ayn Rand got angry in response. But I think it was important to Rand to be feminine from everything that I've seen and read. So yes, let me be clear. A woman can have strong convictions. A woman can have very strong boundaries over what she, expects and how she expects to be treated, and be feminine. Those don't conflict at all. What I'm talking about is very bossy and unrefined energy, which is what I see from these BuzzFeed feminists. You look confused by what I'm saying. Maybe you're from that same generation. Or
no, I'm sensing a package deal, but anyway, it's not worth of our time.
Okay, yeah. It's not. I know it's not exactly about what the dress said. It's not. We're here to discuss the dress.
I got. So here's an example that came to mind. So there are also conservative women who want to present themselves as the essence of femininity, who are also annoying because they are often disrespectful and all that stuff. I don't think that this takes away the femininity parts, and this has to do more with the public persona. I don't know. Again, I don't know.
I do know. You should go on TikTok sometime. See how the girls are expressing themselves these days. And, how long are you going to keep telling yourself, well, yeah, this is just one way for women to be? No, at a certain point, people have forgotten what a female even is. And I'm just saying, I'm always on here saying, F Tucker Carlson, F Trump, and people are, finally hearing me speak out on what I assumed we all kind of take for granted. But clearly it's, there's work to be done with the mainstream left-leaning culture. So I'm going to step up my game, and all I ask of you all in return is to super chat and become members. Okay. Do we have any more to discuss with regards to the topic at hand?
I don't think I have anything else on the topic, but again, what this shows, so if you're somewhere out there and you worry that we're going to have a new assault on the Winter Palace by the left, this basically shows me the opposite. The quote radicals of today is just boring Keynesians, but they take advantage of a culture where there is no opposition at all, that everyone would say, yes, you're right. And the best counter argument that they could have from the right is that you're right, but you're a hypocrite. Or you're right, but not when it comes to 48%, maybe when it comes to 42%. So that's my biggest takeaway from this story.
Yeah, I know it's frustrating because the more intense these debates get in the culture, we want to jump in there and like put everyone in their place, and largely they're just not listening to the message. So all we can really do is present something positive, encourage people, read Ayn Rand, read Leonard Peikoff and the other objectivists who have helped clarify the philosophy. And most importantly, apply it to your own life and ask yourself, like, what, who do I want to be? What do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? That's really the best advice I can give today. All right, AOC, if you're watching this, we're your better friend than anyone else is. Like, I care about your future more than anybody else. I want you to have a good life. I hope you grow out of this socialist phase and turn over to the dark side with us here. You'll always have a spot on our network. Okay, jump over to Clubhouse. Oh, well, we got some announcements. Yeah. So no debate today. No Yaron Brook debate, but we do have James, no last name. So I'm trying to scour my memory. What's James's last name?
Valiant.
James Valiant is going to be discussing the essay by Ayn Rand, The Left, Old versus New. That's at 7 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. Eastern. The boot camp, which is normally not today, was moved to today. That's at 8 p.m. UK time for members only. So if you are not a member, first of all, you are beneath contempt, and we wish you the worst. That's a joke. But if you're not a member, that's what you're missing out on, basically. Don Watkins boot camping you into being a better communicator. Also, thank you, Christopher, for the $2.99 Canadian, because I read his plebeian comment earlier, and then now he just paid us for it because he's a man of integrity. Thank you for that. All right, I guess we'll jump over to Clubhouse and kill some time over there before we need to call it a wrap. All right. Thank you, Nikos. Interesting discussion. And see you all very soon. Thank you and goodbye.